Okay, um, so this is the 10 minutes speaking. So let's do it. Yeah, so I'm gonna go to the internet to search for it. Alright, so it's gonna be server. It's gonna be here. Alright, ready. Right, so three, two, one. Let's do it. Let's say you feel public speaking, so you have to go down on stage and you feel anxiety. The, the usual, the default state of someone who doesn't want to have the experience is just trying to figure each one to know is to worry about the experience. I mean, the anxiety is kind of just by mere talk of what you have to do. Then, once you feel the butterflies, you are with them, right? You contract, your mind contracts around your conversation with yourself isn't having what it's like this person, you just can see the person who does all the time, they're relaxed, I'm unhappy, when my end you're talking about yourself, you're not noticing because your thoughts to come up your behind you as far as they can, and they seem to be you right to identify with each of thoughts that emerge in consciousness. And most people later realize that thought there's no alternative. We're not given the rule book for how to operate a human mind, right? So there's no place normal the education where we're as even indicated there's an alternative here, and so we get to kind of stumble out into adulthood. Well, that's assuming that we always have in mind we have, and that really that's the only thing we can do to we upgrade our firmware is to just add new content. We can read books, we can develop interest, but there's nothing that's not approved level of our emotional cognitive life can change. If you feel anxiety, actually a place from which you can just feel it, right? And be actually indifferent to it or anything else. You could be feeling it, you just notice it even an unpleasant sensation during the anxiety isn't then that unpleasant is so close to excitement. And it's actually physiology that really the difference between excitement and anxiety is more or less just deforming like story you tell yourself. You felt these tingles like excited analyzed responses, right? For you knowing the roller coaster, that's a plus point you're going on a roller coaster like experience. The fact that you feel that way about to have an interview or you're about to know walk around stage, that's terrible, right? So you just dropping back and realizing the power of framing is again this is a skill that is fairly isolated, but many people are learning it, so the secrets out. Most of what people care about can be top of the skill. It's mean webbing is a skill, not suffering unnecessarily. Is a skill noticing your emotional life and regulating negative emotion is a skill. The moment you begin practicing mindfulness, which is just learning to pay all attention to the nature of anything to experience, you just noticing what's like to be you moment to moment, but in a way that is not reactive, not cycling and repetition of pushing up and listen to where you're just that is a story of telling yourself a story you're thinking, and you can either become more and more mindful of what and interpret that more and more. You can reframe this continuing to yourself a better story, but you can actually just engineer. You can change the code that you are running moment to moment. You sort of use a negative imagination where you think of all the bad things that happen to you, right? And you just you're stuck in traffic, drop into the job that you don't like, and you're frustrated. You can think of all the things that could happen to you, right? That haven't. And if any one of them happened to you, you will send your prayers answered if you could just be returned to this moment. And you could be the guy who today is going to find out you've got 2 months left, right? And you have to then next 2 months you spend just unwinding your worldly affairs, right? You're not that guy, right? That hasn't happened to you yet. That's just a mom thinking, but it can happen out of fact. You can reframe your experience in a way it doesn't actually change anything material about your circumstance, and you can let it light. Element techniques like that are just a matter of invoking useful concepts skillfully. Picture that you're in an airplane and it begins to spouse. And even those of us who are necessarily afraid to fly can feel anxious in significant turbulence. Now, why do we feel anxious? Well, we have some talk about turbulence might be dangerous, right? That they makes more likely the plane will crash. And of course, surely significant turbulence can cause a plane to crash. But as we know from the statistics of plane crashes, it's a very, very rare thing. So now, unless you are in that rare and horrible experience of being actually thrown around the cabin so as to get injured, it's very likely that the bouncing is not physically painful, or this you're not being harmed, but it's essential. And in other contexts, you could subject yourself to even more violent bouncing and not be worried about it at all. You might go stomp right at an amusement park which is short, where your force on your body weight, and you do it because you're seeking that experience out. Now, an airplane is totally unwelcome to you, but you just take the raw sensation that you know the problem. It's what they pretend. It's an interpretation of them that worries you. There are at least two levels at which you can deal with this. First is to think conceptually about the nature of what wrong done, what you fear. Is it rational to worry that your plane will crash? If you're experiencing turbulence, no. It's like it isn't the likelihood of dying in a plane crash. It's minuscule. Over the course of your journey, you should begin to worry as you leave the airport and get in an Uber or a taxi or drive yourself home in your own car. So, if you understand that, every moment in the plane is in fact safer than any moment you spend on a crowd, certainly safer than when you're working as a pedestrian fixated on your smartphone and stepping into the crosswalk. That's when your adrenaline surge. Those are moments where the sweat should begin beating off on your forehead, swinging the plane, and it's beginning to bounce. It is in fact unreasonable to worry that the bouncing means much of anything. If you understand that, that actually can have an effect. They can be unwilling to just experience the raw sensation of turbulence. Then you can cease to interpret experience as a sign of actual danger. The level you can address is, and these are totally compatible moves that recommend both of them, is to become mindful of the feeling of anxiety itself. But what is it? And what does it mean? Well, it's just essentially just a pattern of energy in your body, and it actually doesn't mean anything at the level of our situation. You might have talked about it, and very rarely much of what you're thinking is the moment is probably just work trying to figure out not to feel that way or not to let it worse. But if you step out of your thoughts and just become willing to feel the raw sensation of anxiety, as you just surrender your resistance to it, just feel it as energy, it can lose its meaning. It can become very difficult to distinguish from what another framing could be a thought opposite or positive experience or excitement. How do you know the difference between being anxious about something that's about to happen and being excited? For the most part, it is the thoughts you're thinking when you're feeling the arousal. There's a cognitive, conceptual overlay on top of this raw feeling. Because then we reframe things, or you can step out of it altogether and just feel the raw energy of its experience. And when you do that, anxiety can be like any other experience that has no meaning for you as a person. Really doesn't say anything about you. So let's say you have a rash on your elbow and it's itching. Okay, that doesn't say anything deep about you. As a person, it has no physiological implication. It might be unpleasant, maybe extraordinarily unpleasant, but it doesn't reach into your sense of who you are. The deepest way to respond to anxiety. Again, I'm not saying that there is no case in which drugs are valuable or even necessary. May very well be, but for anxiety, it's in its more ordinary range. The way to respond to it is to become willing to be feel it, to cease to interpret it as important and to function in the midst of it, and then it will past anxiety rises and falls on any other emotion, and you're not continually thinking your thoughts that make the answers. It's that they can't stay around very long. This is true for the unpleasant emotional anger and sadness, and they continually restricted by our thoughts, and we are spending most of the time thinking that knowing that we think is mindfulness in particular a very good antidote to this problem, which is you can't apply it as an antidote. You can't be mindful anxiety, so it will go away. Become willing to feel it, just like it burn right in you, and discover that it doesn't matter. It simply comes and goes, and you can functional. Okay, so that's the end of the 10-minute speaking. So now I want to move to the 30-minute speaking. Okay, so let's do it.